I'm Lauren with Pack Hacker, and in this video taking a detailed look at the Wrangler 15-inch underseat spinner, which I've been testing for the last 2 weeks. Let's dive in. This thing is made with some pretty beefy materials, at least on this external like fabric here. So this is a 1680D polyester. I'm gonna bring it up closer to the camera to get you like a closer look at what it looks like. It kind of gives that it gives off that like ballistic nylon kind of look. And it comes in a couple different colors. I do think it looks pretty nice. We've just got a little Wrangler logo right here. This is like a little metal plate. It's not stitched on particularly well. I don't even know if it's stitched on, honestly. It feels like it's just kind of like glued on. It's coming up a little bit at the edge there. I think where this thing kind of misses the mark is in its like quality of construction. There's just a lot of loose threads around the place. So you can see like there's two down here. There's a couple right up here, there's one right here, there's one over on this side, and it just kind of feels like it's like it was stitched together almost very quickly. It also looks like, I mean, you can see like the stitching kind of comes off of the zipper track there. It's like a little bit weird over here. This isn't very straight. And then the zipper itself, these are not YKK zippers. These are unbranded. They're not, okay. They're not really anything. And the teeth look a little bit wonky right here. I haven't had any issues yet, but I could see that being a problem eventually. But like in terms of other material or like in terms of just the general construction of it, it's really just like the stitching because everything else feels really secure. The wheels feel secure. We've got 4 wheels here. Lifting it up, you can see they're just like, they spin 360 degrees on their own. They're a little loud, so you can kind of hear them move around there. And it's definitely one of those things where it's like you can hear yourself moving through the airport type of a deal. But they feel very like they're secure here. They're like very, I don't know, stitched on, I guess you could say. So those feel nice and sturdy, and they work well. And then we also have the telescoping handle here that comes out, and it's pretty beefy. It has 2 adjustment points, but it's like really thick down here and gets thinner as it goes up. So it feels like this thing is kind of like chunky and like stitched together kind of okay, but not in the most like aesthetically pleasing way. That's just kind of like thrown together, I guess, in certain spots. And then we also have a charging port here, which we'll get into in a second, and then the top carry handle, which is pretty visible up on the top here, but I really don't mind it. It makes it really easy to grab, and it's pretty comfortable for me to get my hands in there. This is the telescopic handle when it's at its full height. So I'm 5'6". This feels comfortable for me, but there is a slightly lower adjustment point. Where are you? You're right here. See, it was a little bit hard to get to it. And that's one thing that I have an issue with this. This is like the smaller height, which is a little bit more comfortable to me, but it feels very like, it's just kind of like falls in and out of its adjustment really easily. So I would really say like in terms of height adjustment, this first like highest one is probably your best bet to make it actually feel secure. And then when you want to get it down, it's just a very quick like button. It doesn't go down all the way on its own, but it still works pretty well. Like this thing is packed out, all the way, and I don't have any issues getting it to stand up on its own. So that's really nice. And then like I mentioned, the wheels are just a little bit loud, but it's not anything too terrible, and they roll pretty well overall. If you're finding this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. In terms of external components here, or external compartments, we've got 2 different options, which I like about this, because we've got this side pocket here, which is just below that charging station, which I mentioned earlier. And this unzips in kind of like that like half moon shape. And then when you open this up here, there's a little gusset to keep it from falling open completely, because when you open this, like obviously the suitcase is going to be like this, and you don't want that zipper falling all the way open. But what you have here is a built-in cable, and then you have to kind of bring your own cable and the actual charging port. So this is a little bit chaotic to look at, so bear with me. But essentially what it is this cable comes with the bag, and it feeds through here and then attaches to this charging port. So what you do is you attach it to a portable charger, a battery bank, something like that, and you just leave it in this pocket. And then when you want to charge your phone, you can plug it in here, And then you can, oh, where did the little charger go? It popped out. Okay, so this is an issue with these as well, is that sometimes they'll just pop out completely, and that is not convenient. So if this happens, what you have to do is you have to filter it back through, go into the liner. It's like a whole thing. I don't really find these super functional, to be quite honest, in a general sense. This is actually the first problem I've had with this one popping out, but it is not an issue that is unique, I think, to these particular ports. So let's say it was fully in there like it's supposed to be. What you would do is you would stick this in, it would hang out there, and then you can charge your phone from there. But what happens here is then you're kind of like, if you want to put your phone away, you could wrap this cable up and just kind of stick it in this pocket. But then, you know, obviously this is still going to be, would have been nice if it was still attached, but it is not. So if this were still attached out here, then you would have to kind of like shove all the cable in here, and it all just sort of like hangs out, and then you can zip it, but not all the way, and then you can technically charge your phone while it's packed away. I don't necessarily know why you would need to do that in particular, but it is an option, or it is an option. I think that like the benefit is to really, like, if you don't have a place to set your phone when you're, you know, sitting somewhere at the gate, then this is a really good alternative. Or you can just ignore this feature completely and use this pocket for other things like keys or things that you're not going to need access to super often. What's nice about this is if you want access to something really quickly on the plane, you can stick like snacks in here or your headphones or something like that. But depending on where your seat is, because this is sized to go like under the seat in front of you, depending on where your seat is, it might be a little bit harder to get to this pocket. So instead, what I use is this front pocket. So this opens up really nice and easy, and then you can see it's a pretty decent pocket. There's a little bit of packable space like up this way if you really want it. So you can do that, but I found it pretty easy to just like open up this pocket, shove whatever I needed in there, and then it was easy to access. What I did is I kept a wallet in here. I kept my keys in here if they weren't in the side pocket, but honestly, I think the side pocket's a better spot for them. And then I kept my headphones in here as well. You could just see I was kind of digging around in there a bit. So it's not the easiest to get to your stuff all the time because it is a pretty deep pocket. So it does go all the way down to here. So your stuff could get lost. But what I do find is that this is a really nice feature to have, that you can just stick like your wallet and your phone and your keys and stuff in here if you want to. However, a lot of the time you have like a sling that those items are going in. So if you're not going to be using it for those items, it's good for like an extra layer, or maybe you have like a really packable neck pillow or something like that. There is enough depth in here to give you some space for all those items, especially if the main compartment isn't like overpacked, which mine's kind of perfectly packed right now. So that gives you an idea of how much space is left. So now into the main compartment area. So these are lockable unbranded zippers, like I mentioned earlier. These are just like metal zipper pulls. They feel pretty nice. They just say Wrangler on them. And this thing opens up pretty easily and gives you good access to everything inside. What I like about it is that there's no like gussets here to like keep it from falling completely open, because that means that I can like really easily pack this thing out. The disadvantage is that if this is up, you know, like this, you really need to utilize this compression panel to make sure that all of your stuff doesn't just fall out. So actually, I guess the easiest thing to start with is just this top zippered pocket. I just use this for either like underwear or socks, or I did put like additional layers in here, like a hat or gloves or something like that. That's a really good spot for that. Quick and easy to access if you just need to get in there, but otherwise it just stays flat and is out of the way. Where the meat of the packing is going to go into this like main bucket space. We do have some like, it's kind of like piping along the side here to give it a little bit of structure, but otherwise this thing is pretty flexible on all of these sides here. So it can pack out like a little bit more if you need it to. But we start off with this panel here. This is sized to fit a 13-inch laptop or like an iPad or a Kindle or something like that. I didn't really find myself needing this. I did actually need this one time when I was like going on an overnight and I needed to bring my laptop, so that was kind of convenient. But otherwise, this just kind of, you know, you don't have to use it, and you can just use this as just a regular compression panel. If you don't, like when you do want to get access to your gear in here, there are two buckles on the back side here. and then you just flip this out of the way. The disadvantage of this is that this is not removable. So if you don't want this at any point, you're kind of stuck with it. But what I did is I flipped it out of the way and didn't worry about it until I needed to pack it back up. It was just like, it's a little bit tedious to like get those rebuckled, but it's not the end of the world. And these just kind of hang out otherwise. So not too terrible. We also have 2 compression straps in here to keep everything locked down. So, you know, you don't have to just rely on this to keep your gear in place. We do have these as well. So I have some cubes in here at the moment, but I did do this with like freestanding clothes. And I would say you can get like a good, like if you pack smart, you can get 5 days of clothes in here. Like you just can. It is pretty spacious. It's a 25.5 liter capacity. But you definitely have to pack smart. Like if you are bringing an extra pair of shoes, because that's like without shoes, I would say 5 days of clothes. If you're bringing an extra pair of shoes, like that's gonna cut you by like a day and a half or maybe 2 days. So it just kind of depends on how you pack and what you're packing. But we do have, you know, once you do decompress these or like unbuckle these, this one as well, it's just, you have to flip it. I'll show you in a second. But I just kind of flipped these and kept those on the side here so that they didn't fall in. These ones you can't expand or extend anymore, and these I did notice like flopped in a bunch, but that's just kind of, I don't know, an annoyance more than anything. So I've got 2 smaller packing cubes, 1 larger packing cube down here, and then that's where all of that packing space ends. I've got a tech pouch and 2 packable bags here. So that kind of gives you an idea of what can fit in here. That gives you access to like the underneath liner side, and this is where that little like cable, feed through cable, like popped out. You would just have to feed it back through there. So annoying, but not like impossible to do. You just kind of have to access the underneath of that layer. But like this is where I kind of noticed like those stitching things again. Like for example, these compression panels buckle nicely into each other. They're just like plastic buckles that you just press to, you know, disengage. But this one here is stitched on upside down. So like whenever you want to actually use it, you have to flip this side or, you know, flip the other side, and then you can do it. So these are things that are like small nitpicky things, but with this being at like the budget price that it is, I think that you can get so much stuff in here and it feels reasonably quality. Like the stitching, obviously, like I mentioned, is just a little goofy, but it works really well. And like considering how much gear you can fit inside, that's pretty significant. So I wouldn't say that like you can really go wrong with this thing. I do think, you know, this is, you know, like I mentioned, a 25.5 liter capacity. It is overall, including the wheels, 16.5 inches by 9 by 13.5, which is small enough to fit personal items like sizes of like Delta, but is like 1 inch too deep for Frontier, and they're getting a little bit more strict with their carry-on or their personal item sizes, like checking it at the gate. And then like somewhere like Ryanair is like, this is going to be just significantly too big for that. So, but if you're flying with more lax airlines, or if you want to take the risk for someone like Frontier, then this seems like a really nice option. Or rather, I think it is a good option if you're not looking to spend that much money. You just want to try out this kind of underseat luggage design. So there you have it, the Wrangler 15-inch underseat spinner. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.